Hey everyone, welcome to FMA Talks, Martial Chronicles. I'm your host, Datu Tim, with my amazing co-host.
PG Dies here. Welcome, everybody.
So,
And I've got my Eagle Fang shirt on.
Eagle Fang. So, a lot of stuff going on. Lot of stuff going on. A lot of good stuff. And hey, Timmy, brother Tim E.
That's right.
I'll be down in Jacksonville, so I'm looking forward to seeing you down there.
PG Sam, hey.
Yep. PG Sam. A lot of things going on. I'm heading off to Reno this weekend for the gathering, and you're hosting
the fourth annual FMA fall FMA fling. See, there you go. I messed up too. But yeah, it's going to be a good weekend, both sides of the country, right?
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'm going to show the left coasters what the right coasters are doing.
There you go.
And hello, Eric from Portland. Hey, what's the weather down by you? Because it's been like torrential downpours all day long.
For me, it just rained last night a little bit, and the night before. It's supposed to be these storms, but it really wasn't that bad.
I was thinking that these 2x2, baby.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, 2x2. So this past weekend, we had the Northern Ontario World Modern Arnis Alliance training camp.
How'd that go?
Nothing but good things.
Excellent.
It looked good. Good things. They had I think 4 instructors there. PG Craig and PGs, Punangurus, Craig Mason and Jason Arnold, along with senseis Carl Outram and Chris Workman.
Oh, Workman, yeah.
I'm not sure what Hiltz was doing.
Hiltz was there. I don't know if he was teaching, but yeah. And Terrell, hey. Yeah. Oh, he's somewhere else. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I didn't see him say hello.
No, I think he just sent me a messenger. I bet you he'll be on if he can.
Okay.
But anyway, so that looked really cool, and it was good to see Carl out there mixing it up.
Yep. I'm actually very excited. The Florida camp's coming up soon.
Mm-hmm.
Check this out. I don't know the distance. We got people coming, wait for it, from Alabama.
Nice. To Florida, right?
To go into Florida. That's good. Yeah. I'm like, damn. I'm looking it up right now to see how far that is from. Well, it's next to Georgia.
Yep.
It's another country.
Basically, yeah.
It's another state I need to go to because that'll be another state in the thing there. Maria, I tried messaging you, Maria. Where have you been? Oh my goodness!
I haven't seen her on the show for a while. Good to see you.
No, we miss you, Maria. We got to get you on the show. After all, we hosted some events together, or an event together.
That'd be good.
My 4-legged puppies here.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just.
I was going to ask you before we get going. Do you have a rant? I got a tiny one.
No, because the show's going to be about me, and I mean, so today's show is about getting to know why I do some of the things that I do, and my rants are all about. What are my rants about? Things annoy me. And I just think the hypocrisy that when I do or say something, people don't like, they call foul. But when they're doing the same things, I'm supposed to give them a pass. So hold on one moment. I'm going to talk to my boy here, but I want to hear your rant. Oh,
okay. It's not much of one, but let me say hi to
my brothers.
Terrell here. Yeah, there's Terrell. All right. Good to see you. All right. Yeah. So we got a handful of people. I know I never have a rant. This is a tiny one, but like many of the things that concern me, it's perspective. So a lot of times you hear people talking about, you know, their style relative to other styles, or maybe their style in general. And I wanted to throw something out there. If you're talking about your style relative to others, have you actually investigated in a meaningful manner other styles? Have you played them? Have you done them? Not just talked about them, not just read about them, not just talked to a friend of a friend of a friend, but have you really, committed to, hey, I'm going to do a serious amount of work, and that's just not even a seminar, right? Because that gives you, that's almost like a sprinkling, right? How would you know what the flavor of something is from a sprinkling of pizza flavorings, right? So just a thought there if you're going to talk about those kind of things, and even in your own style, right? So if your style has probably been around for a while, there are probably different takes on that style. So if you're going to talk about your style and you haven't looked at some of the other perspectives on your style, you probably want to consider open your aperture just a little bit. I know it's not a whole lot of rant, but it's just a request. People should be aware of perspective and knowing what you're talking about and knowing what your perspective is or is not. It's all well and good to say, hey, I only do my style. I don't know other people's style, but it looks to me like X, Y, or Z, so help me understand. That's fine. But if you're going to say more sweeping generalizations, it seems to me that you're putting your foot in your mouth. Just a thought there.
You know, that actually, ties into something I was having a problem with myself.
Ties into?
And you said great points here.
No, thanks, Eric.
So, man, this dog's really annoying the hell out of me. I'm going to have to get him a treat before we really dig in deep. But I have a similar thing. So, a fitness kickboxing place closed down locally, and I inherited a bunch of the students. And one of the students it's just driving me crazy. One of the members was talking to the owner of the gym, the ex-owner of the gym. And they said, well, why don't you send the people to Tim? Well, he's cocky. Really? Well, when were you talking to him? Oh, I've never talked to him. He's got this air. I'm like, wait a minute, you've never met me. If you look at my website, it's fairly sterile of me on there. Yet, people are judging me without even having ever met me. Never heard me, never watched a podcast, never nothing. Interesting. Once again, before you go off half-cocked, maybe you should know what you're talking about. Otherwise, keep your mouth shut. Like you said, my system's better than yours. Have you tried mine? Have you tried? Here's a good one. I have all these people so I have an N9 group that trains with me in Sweden. Everyone poo-poos modern, but they trained with me and they liked me. And I understand why you poo-poo modern, because a lot of people in modern never took their FMA training wheels off. They do it as the art within the art, and they didn't try to work the system like a standalone program, putting the effort in that it deserves. They just did it as a supplementary program. Well, these guys committed to the program. They're at a LeMayco seminar, and all of a sudden, some variations came up from our side of the family, and they're like, hey, can you show me that? I go, yeah, you're going to attend my seminar. This is what the guy from Sweden was telling me, is like, there was nothing they showed us that we didn't already do. It's just, the thing here is there's a lot of weekend warriors in modern. You know what? There's a lot of weekend warriors in most martial arts. It's just that Remy was all about enhancing versus doing it as a standalone program. Right. So, of course, you're going to see, well, that guy doesn't look FMA. I go, but does he look like a good martial artist? And if he's moving like a good or even a great martial artist, then Remy did his job.
Right.
It just, how many of a local guy, this is actually why the Next Generation article came out. A local guy said to me once, well, Remy doesn't have any people. And I got pissed off about that.
Doesn't have any people.
He doesn't have any names. When you think about, okay, what are the names of Modern Arnis? Take present company excluded. Give me a big name that would be known outside of Modern Arnis.
Outside of Modern Arnis.
That's in Modern Arnis.
By name? In Modern Arnis by name.
A Modern Arnis student that's known outside of the art.
Okay. Well,
Not-
I mean, Datu Kelly would be known, but he's known as someone who's done Modern Arnis, even though he's teaching NSI.
So he's Renegade Jeet Kune Do. Boom.
Right. Right.
Okay.
But he's known.
He's not known for Modern Arnis.
Right. He's known of, I guess, that's one of his.
Give me another name.
I think a lot of people know. Well, I think Dieter is
I'm
known.
thinking. What?
Dieter is known. Dr. Dieter.
He got a reputation long before he hooked up with Remy. That was
Right.
more on the Comaton side and the Abanico Productions.
Right.
Give me another name. I can't believe that you missed this name.
Uh-oh.
Who's our celebrity black belt?
Oh, well, okay.
Or who do I consider a celebrity black belt?
Right. Dan Anderson.
Sport karate.
Right. But
All
again,
the
he
people, I
made his
am
name before Modern.
I started developing a reputation outside of the art. I'll say, as a Modern Arnis practitioner, because this is my core. Wesley Snipes didn't do Modern Arnis.
Jim Riddell, that's fair, but I think a lot of people
As a Modern Arnis student, okay, but not.
I think he's known outside of Modern probably very well. I mean, in Philippines, sure.
No one knew who Rodell was outside the Philippines until Remy passed away. And even then, he had more of a reputation. It's not a reputation. It's more of his business model of smoking sticks.
I think some people knew Dean Stockwell just because of his celebrity status.
Movie star.
Some people knew Roland Dantes because of the movies again. I think before the split, I think people knew the name Ernesto even if they hadn't met him. And we know there's names within Modern Arnis that we all know that are do Modern, but as far as people that folks outside of Modern would know, that's all that's coming to my mind. Anybody else got any suggestions besides Eric and Timmy?
I had to give him his.
I figured.
So listen, I'm not trying to make myself sound like I'm super special. What I'm saying is, Remy didn't have anybody who specialized in Modern Arnis out there, who made a name in the martial art industry for doing Modern Arnis.
Mm-hmm.
What he did was had a lot of top tier martial artists join the team. Look, Ron Browning, trained Guy Metzger. Trained Guy Metzger became the UFC champion. Python Sansu Kung Fu, fought for Don King, did movies, added Modern Arnis to his mix, but he was who he was a long time ago. And who's that?
I don't know.
I'm
laughing at myself, not you, Eric.
Yeah.
We were just talking about before the show some names I should have known that I didn't know. But yeah, and so why don't you talk about that? I know we're not getting into you quite yet, but why don't you talk about that Next Generation article that you referred to? Because then there's some names that came up and were exposed, which I think was good.
So, so Remy's yearbook. The last time Remy was on the cover of Black Belt magazine, Remy had an article. There were 2 articles in there. It was debuting Remy's video series that was produced.
Arjukan probably karate under Jim.
But that's not Modern.
Right.
It's still not Modern. And I never heard of the guy. Not to say anything bad. Never.
Right.
Remy.
Oh heck! I mean, we laugh about this in Chinese arts all the time. There's, the best guy that you never heard of could be around the corner, and you would have wished you known him. It just doesn't happen sometimes.
Okay.
Being known doesn't mean you're necessarily good, and vice versa.
No. So, what I'm going to do is, here we go.
You have the article?
Well, I have
or the
the.
cover?
I'll have the cover. Let me pull this up here. So actually, I mean, it was on a lot of magazines.
He was.
Yeah. So it's this one right here on the right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So,
I had that one.
but here's another good one. This one, they talk about how Inisano was inspired by Remy.
I definitely had that one. That was my mag.
I got this hanging on my wall. I got that one when he was instructor of the year. I got that. Actually, I've got almost every book magazine that he's been in, at least produced over here. So, anyways, getting back to it, there is an article. Okay, so let's start off. One of my students says, Tim, I want to. He's a writer. He's a school teacher. Paul O'Grady wrote a nice article. Said, I want to do an article on you, and I said no. I've got a project for you, but it's not a Tim Hartman article.
Mhm.
PG, I love the statement being known doesn't make you good. There you go. So he was also a student of. Okay, whatever.
Oh, Daniels. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So one of my guys wanted to do an article on me, and I said no. Here's the article I want you to write. We're trying to find people who are people. This was in. Will you come here? Oh my God. It was.
We got an extra host.
Come here. I've got an extra host. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
this is. Get over here. So this is when he when a local guy said that Remy had no students with names,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, all right, here we go. Do an article. This is Star Trek Next Generation was big at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it Modern Arnis' Next Generation. You're looking for the top tier guys in regions, something special about them, high ranking, and something that makes them special.
Mm-hmm.
I gave him a list of names. Okay. And he used all the names that I listed. I said, they all have something special about them. They're all regional.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Alexander was one of them. That was your teacher.
Mm-hmm.
After doing the research, he found out that the names I recommended all fit the criteria of being, so they're top tier martial artists in their regions for one thing or another. They got into Modern Arnis. So it was Eric Alexander. It was in Connecticut. I was here in Buffalo. Jay Spiro, Detroit, Michigan. Michael Donovan, London, Ontario. Dan Anderson, Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Bob Quinn may have been in there.
There was one, yeah. Or was it Hoffman? I can't remember.
No, it wasn't Hoffman.
Okay.
But I just gave a recommendation. He went through and chose the names himself, but the thing here is that I told him to vet everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and he agreed with them all.
Do your research. Don't trust me. Yeah, check it out.
This was about an 8-page article.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
It was 8-page.
Editors got had changed.
Mm-hmm.
So what they did is they took it as a sidebar article in addition to that magazine,
right?
To promoting Remy's new book and stuff like that. So, or new video series and stuff like that. So, but the thing here is, then I had Randy Shea was like, well, people are saying, they're wondering why they weren't included in it. Well, first of all, if they wanted to be in an article, write their own goddamn articles. It's not my job. Secondly, if it promotes Modern Arnis, a rising tide lifts all ships.
Mm-hmm.
So Kelly Warden writes an article. Jeff Delaney writes an article.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody writes an article about Modern Arnis, and it inspires people. It's going to help me. I don't have to be the cover person. Here we go. Jeff Delaney writes an article. People like it. Okay, some guy in Buffalo says, I got to do this art. He looks to see where Jeff Delaney is. Okay, he's in Texas, or, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I wonder if there's any Modern Arnis in Buffalo. If he does his research, he would have found me. Boom, done. Kelly Warden does an article. Portland, or in Tacoma, Washington. Okay. Seattle, the SeaTac area. Okay. Once again, Oh, I got to work with this Kelly Warden guy. No, too far away. Hey, but Tim Hartman's around the block from me. It's a win-win for all of us.
Yep. Well, yeah, because one, you get to appreciate it. It's big everywhere, and two, you get to do it with the person near you. And even if you want that other name that you read, it gets your foot in the door, gets you started, and you see if you really like it, and you can still get it with them later.
Remy was the ambassador that paved the way for all of us. We had to do our follow-up work. And if we didn't have the skills to follow up, we weren't going to keep it going. You know? That's why you'll see the quantity of seminars that I'm still doing. You know? It's not like, okay, so if I was not good at what I did, I wouldn't be doing, well, right now, I mean, COVID, But pre-COVID, I was, for over 2 decades, I was doing 30-plus seminars a year.
Yeah, rich.
A lot of repeats. Hey, that wasn't by accident.
Yep.
So, so you can sit there and say Remy opened up the doors for me, no questions asked. But I still had to do my work, or these people wouldn't have me back. I remember what Remy would tell people: you should have Tim in for a seminar. As soon as he walked away, I'd like, hey, you don't have to have me in for a seminar. Don't do it because Remy. Listen, I'd love to do a seminar for you, but I didn't let Remy tell me who to have in my school, and I'm not expecting him to do the same. Having someone have me in because Remy says he should do it. If you're like, hey, Remy, who's your top guy? Oh, here, have Tim in. Okay, that's a different story.
Right. No, and I'm actually glad that you said stuff like that because a lot of us, Remy would tell us to do stuff and we would just do it because that's what you did. But that's, like you said, that's not the optimal reason. And it's certainly not sustainable.
No. So, but I remember when that article came out, I had people giving me shit on this. I'm like, well, write your own damn article. What's the big deal? Oh, because they weren't the center of attention. Then
it could be a follow-up. It could be another person's take. It doesn't have to be confrontational. Just more articles helps everybody. So it would actually be a good thing. You got some more things to write about? Do it.
There was no one saying that no one could submit an article.
Yep.
Oh my God, this dog's driving me crazy.
Well, but I mean, on the other side of it is everybody does want to be recognized and considered without having to ask for it. So I get that. But, you're not going to make everybody happy all the time. You do a starting point and you do it in good faith and it should be okay.
Everyone's got to understand their job is not out there to promote me. So why would my job be out there to promote them?
Right.
I don't expect anyone to do this work for me. Matter of fact, I hate asking people for help.
Right.
Absolutely hate it. Right. And the reason being is I've seen so many school instructors abuse their position that, oh, you should do this for the well, I mean, this ties into a little things. I know why I'm very polarizing. Well, one of the things I do is I'm an advocate of customer service and that people should be demanding customer service. You're paying. Okay, so first of all, I don't blame anyone for charging money for martial arts. I mean, okay, so people say, well, these people didn't charge money. No, but if you brought them food, it's the same damn thing. If you're doing work around their house, it's the same damn thing. But if you're charging money, then demanding people to work around your house without compensating, making some kind of thing, it's another story. But at the end of the day, this is all about customer service. And if someone doesn't give you service, they're not going to continue giving you money. I mean, just like going to a restaurant that's crappy. Why would you keep going back to a restaurant that's giving you poor service? So,
well, actually, do you want to use that as a segue to get into, where the heck does Tim Hartman come from?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it. Because that really is a big thing. And that's why
a
lot of people have been.
Well, I think we could pull that thread. I want to go back a little earlier than that, but let's go straight into, so if you're thinking about customer service, somebody might reasonably ask, hey, well, where does that come from? And I believe you've worked in a few customer service areas before you started teaching.
Well, I worked 8 years for Pizza Hut.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for Advanced Auto Parts for 15 years. I also worked at a hobby shop.
A chain or just a
No, no,
local
no,
mom and
no,
pop?
local hobby shop.
Cool.
I did a little consulting down there for things to purchase. I was a kid, a teenager, a regular there. I'm like, oh yeah, you want to get these slot cars because everyone's racing with these. This is the RC cars you want to get into. I used to run Dungeons and Dragons down there.
Mm-hmm. So all those stores that you just mentioned, or those restaurants and stores and whatnot, those are focused on, you said, customer service is the obvious focus of them, but why is that? Because it's certainly, you don't go to those places for the name or for the person behind the company, right? You go because you want something.
Yeah, you know. So I was always held. You're okay. You both are no nonsense, and I respect that. Thanks.
I'm pretty silly.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I've always everything. So here's the thing: I've never had a lot of money, and Remy Pracis was our grandmaster.
Mm-hmm.
So when I shell out money and D&D, nice. When I shell out money, I want to make sure it's worth it to me because I didn't have a lot of money coming up. I mean, I was making $3.50 an hour, and videotapes back then cost $50.
Right.
Okay, so so I didn't have a lot. So for me to spend money, it had to be worthwhile.
Well, not only that, right? People are really taking it seriously. They're putting their time in it. And that ups the ante significantly. If you're going to have people ask people to do things and devote their time, right, that it's got to be worth it.
And at a very, very early stage in the game for me, I realized that. Remy was amazing. He taught us. He treated us like a human being.
Mm-hmm.
He never demanded us to respect him.
Mm-hmm.
He earned our respect. And at the end of the day, and I had a conversation about a local Taekwondo guy, grandmaster status kind of dude. I'm like, at the end of the day, Coach Danny.
Hey, Denny.
Hey, and the very, this person, they're like, you're in a club they're kind of cult worshiping, right? Yeah. I go, they don't ask, they just do, right? Yeah. Because they're having problems. Explaining bunkai because the person didn't know because it was a young kid teaching, and oh my god, no,
Yeah,
no. So the article Inside Kung Fu, the one I showed earlier, if you saw that. Oh my god, will you stop it? What the question was, or the article talked about how Danny Asano went to a demo that Remy was doing and invited him to a barbecue afterwards. So Remy brought Dean Stockwell over, and during the seminar, he kept telling during the barbecue, he kept telling Asano that he should get involved with Filipino martial arts. Remy was constantly telling Filipinos to do that because the problem was so many Filipinos didn't know of their own martial culture. Okay. There are more non-Pinoys teaching Filipino martial arts than Pinoys.
Mm-hmm.
There are more non-Pinoys training Filipino martial arts than Filipinos. And it's a shame. It's a shame. But I was talking to Goldberg Sensei, and we were talking about jiu-jitsu and aikido and karate. He goes, the Japanese were beginning to say that the Westerners are more Asian than their own people because the Japanese kids coming up are going more for a global culture, hip hop, basketball, drifting, you name it. They're everything but what they're doing.
Sure.
And there's more Westerners in their classes than Eastern, than their own people. Yes, that is a shame.
I think it happens in all cultures. Whatever their native stuff is, that's not so interesting.
No. So, you know, we had some flame wars back on Marshall Talk or FMA Talk and Marshall Talk at the end of the day. I go, you guys can say anything you want, but I don't see the Island boys teaching all these seminars.
Mm-hmm.
It's us non-Asian boys that are doing all the work. And if you looked at it, I mean, like you look at Bobby Tabuada students, the Filipinos are a minority in the club.
Mm-hmm.
You look at a lot of groups. The Filipinos are the minority in their own arts.
Mm-hmm.
When someone sits there and says, "Well, we're the ones that know it," I mean, well, how do you say that? You're not even doing it. But I go down that wrong path. But
well, let's talk about why you might go down the wrong paths.
Hey, Harold, how you doing?
Right. Very good. From the Philippines, magandang umaga. So what sort of let's start from early on. So when people try to understand maybe where you come from, what you're trying to get at, how you get at things. What do you mean by blunt questions or blunt statements? Where do you think that comes from? I mean, I'm trying to dig back to maybe your upbringing, school, family, friends, that kind of good stuff. And, be as open as you want to be.
Okay. So, first of all, and hey, Bill.
Hey.
So, I had Buffalo's a blue collar town. So we don't mix words. My first boss was military. My father was a veteran as well as law enforcement. My stepfather was a bipolar piece of crap that was always looking to jump on me. And I had a very colorful vocabulary in elementary school.
Expressive.
Very expressive. I'm hearing F-bombs when I'm in second and third grade on a regular basis. A steel worker. I worked in the automotive industry for years as well. Very blunt, so I'm around cops, I'm around military, I'm around firefighters, I'm around mechanics. And the worst of all at times, the waitresses at Pizza Hut were some of the most vulgar people I ever met.
Of course.
I was shocked. I would be blushing all the time. So
needless to say, you developed and expected a thick skin.
Yeah. Well, so there's an example. So I lost my father at a young age. I was 15 years old. Days before Christmas, work-related situation. So my stepfather used to talk trash after he was gone. Now, here's a guy, he's a steel worker. When I was in second grade, I accidentally, in a snowball fight, chipped my sister's tooth. Calls me in the house, bounces me off a wall. I'm in second grade. Okay, doesn't ask what happened. I just come in through, next thing you know, I literally get bounced off a wall. From that moment on, there was nothing but psychological abuse. He didn't hit me from that point on. I think maybe he realized he went over a line, but he also didn't apologize. Probably put a dent in the wall. And there's been a lot of, he said, he didn't get along with his own family, go figure. I remember, so I was involved with a lot of things. The music department in school was one of them. We're at the dinner table. And I've got the co-lead in the senior year of high school in the musical. So there was Guys and Dolls, Nathan Detroit, and Sky Masterson. I was Nathan Detroit. And I was more of an acting lead, and the other guy was more of a singing lead.
I was going to ask about that. Okay.
But I was a singer. I went to school for music, so that was all my thing. So I could have easily, my character, my persona fit my character better. Actually, I wanted a completely other character because he had, I thought, the best song in the whole thing, and he had much smaller role, and I wanted the song. I didn't care about the thing, but it's like, no. This is, I asked the director, like, I wanted this part. Why did I get the co-lead when I wanted support? It was like, because you were the guy. I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting at the dinner table. My stepfather is talking to my mom, and he's getting all upset because he's gonna have to sit next to people he doesn't like. And then all of a sudden, starts yelling at me, "You see the trouble you're causing?" And then we have the musical. I come home. They're not home yet. He comes home after I did. He goes, that was one of the best nights I've ever had. Yet, before, he's degrading me and berating me because I'm causing problems because I actually got a part in the musical, and he's upset that he needs to sit next to someone he doesn't like. This was a normal occurrence for Tim on a regular basis.
Wow.
Everything out of it was always, this nonsense. And I've got no problem talking about it. Listen, I was a knucklehead, and I screwed up left and right. But I didn't do the same mistake over and over and over again.
Sure.
I just.
What kind of baseline do you think that set for you as far as your interactions with people in your field or even people you don't know?
Well, guarded for one. Another thing, though, is like with all of these people who are. I was talked to as an adult when I was a child. Nope, it wasn't cool. I was held to an adult standard as a preteen and as a teenager. And as a martial arts instructor, I have parents come into me and they like, their 10-year-old, oh, we were late for class because he didn't tell us this. And I'm like, look, and I'm like, your 10-year-old's a child. Why would you it's a child? He's a child. You're the parent here. You're the adult. You're supposed to be the one knowing this, that, and the other thing. Hell, I didn't know what time I was supposed to show up to stuff when I was a kid. Someone drove me and dropped me off.
Right.
So being held at these kind of standards and dealing with this kind of nonsense on a regular basis, I think between my stepfather and the military people and the automotive industry and all this other stuff, a lot of people are just like, hey, no, just cut through the bullshit. Tell me what you need to do. And they'll work. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so I think you also pointed out that I guess there's a perception of people from Buffalo writ large in general that are not just specifically like this, but in general, there's a perception that people pegged you for too. Can you describe that?
So I was out in Rochester a couple weeks ago at a seminar, a guy who moved out there. And it was the Renaissance Martial Art Festival. The guy comes up and goes, Tim, I thank God you're here. What do you mean? I go, it's so refreshing to have a guy from Buffalo. What do you mean? I go, you're just so up front, and everyone thinks, I'm rude out here. I'm like, oh, because you're from Buffalo. Yeah. I go, we're just, like, I've had a bunch of my friends that come here. They go to an area that, like, and they'll have a couple classmates out at college with them or whatever, and they're talking like, and the people there, why are you guys so nasty to each other? Nasty? What do you mean? We're friends. Really?
Right.
Well, how do you treat people who aren't your friends? Fluffy Gabriel Iglesias does a bit when he was in Buffalo last summer, and he talks about he was in New York City and there was a bomb threat, and he was out getting hot dogs, street vendor, and all the tourist phones are going off, and he's looking at this. He goes. He's like, goes to the hot dog vendor. Hey, what do you think about that? And he goes like, you want relish with that? Everyone's running for cover for bombs, this, other, something. And the hot dog vendor's like, yeah, whatever. What do you want on your dogs? We're a rougher breed here. I remember Brian Zolinsky made a comment to me. He's like, well, Tim's got kind of a full contact sense of humor. I'm like, okay, all right, we can go with that. Quite appropriate, I think. But for some reason, it seems that people out this way just don't. A lot of people in the rest of the world don't know how to take us, or at least not when we're in groups.
Well, speaking of full contact humor, and I double down on that myself sometimes, and certainly inappropriate. Maybe that's my different version. But so speaking of that, I think I'm a big fan that intent matters. So if you're doing full contact humor, if you're really blunt with somebody, can you just maybe talk about your intent? Are you trying to lord it over? Are you trying to be superior? Are you trying to make someone think? Are you trying or showing that you trust them? Are you trying to hurt them? There's all these things that could go into that. How would you describe it in general, or maybe different circumstances?
Okay, there we go.
If that makes sense.
The affiliation with the military is the tendency of cut through bullshit.
Yep.
Actually, that's it right there. Here we go. This is exactly it.
That's it.
I've been nice. I've been overly nice. I have seen teachers. Okay, tell me this.
Mm.
Who has seen this in school at one time where a teacher was trying to be vague and not call somebody out?
Right.
They talk about correcting things, and then of course the kids that they were talking about don't get the point or don't care, and then the ones that were already on the program, they stepped up, going, "Hey, did we do something wrong? No, you were fine. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the knuckleheads over here."
Right. You tell your whole class to keep your elbows by your waist, right? And then the people that are already working on it ask about it, and the people that didn't care still don't care.
Yeah, and we talked about and I would talk to people about this stuff, and I'm like, dude, I don't see what the problem here is. I mean, when I do stuff, I just say, all right, you know what? Guess what? I'm not mixing words. I realized, I hear about old grumpy men. You know what old grumpy men are? People that took too long to figure out they were putting up with bullshit they shouldn't have been putting up for years. And with Remy, you know, he got through a lot of bullshit for me. He wasn't about, oh, you had to be a certain way. He was a laid back, cool dude. He didn't get twisted, and it was just nice, and he treated us like people.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see all this nonsense, so I'm at an event, and everyone in the room is expect to go up, thank you, and say what you mean. That means what you say. Yep. Everyone is supposed to do the pole thing with the forehead. Now, for those who aren't familiar with this, which I think everyone watching is, it came down from the Spanish. You would kiss the ring, But evidently, the way I was told, and I could have this wrong, the Spaniards thought the Pinoys were lower than dirt and weren't allowed to touch the lips to their hands. So it became a thing to the forehead. And eventually the Filipinos adopted that as their culture. But it's supposed to have some kind of familiarity. So I'm with some Filipinos that I know, martial artists. And I go, dude, there's some stuff I don't think this is right. But you know better than I do. And there's one martial arts instructor there that every student that walked through had to come up to the head table and do the forehead thing to this guy. So, and I'm like, and they're like, no, that is not. I was at a seminar with the same guy, and everyone in the room went up to do that, except for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was not having that shit at all, because I know it's supposed to be some form of familiarity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Eric would have had us do that with Remy. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I mean, Remy did never expect it that I ever saw.
Right.
In fact, Remy, why do I call him Remy? Because he told me to call him Remy. So that's what I'm going to call him.
Call him Remy.
Yep.
And it was always Professor.
Yep. Exactly. Well, in class. Yep.
Well, I knew so many professors. It was Remy in class, but we all called him Professor when he was in town.
Yep.
But I didn't like that stuff because I knew it was wrong. I knew it wasn't the one-off. It was constant. I'm like, No. There's and actually I do that to some Filipinos I meet.
Right.
You were there when I did it to Roland.
Right. That's right. Well, I mean, there's a difference between required respect, which to me doesn't mean anything, and offered.
Yeah.
Right. So, and like you said, there's the familiarity piece of it. Yeah. No, I get you. Um, Speaking of, where you're coming from, is there any other pieces of your viewpoint and perspective that you'd like to touch upon that sort of fits with this theme that we're talking about? I mean, cutting through bullshit is one. I don't know about you. One of the times when I say my bluntest stuff, it's because I want somebody to think. It's not really to bother them, but sometimes you have to break through coasting, right? You have to break through, their accepted things. And so sometimes you'll say something that makes them go a double take, and maybe now they'll think. They may not change their mind, but at least that, it's broken through the shield, if you will.
So, I think this show talks about all the stuff that really annoys the hell out of me and you, one way or another. I think that's a third of the show.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about. I personally believe, and we're trying to improve things out there for our community.
Mm-hmm.
But to improve things, we have to shed light on the things that are bad or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done this multiple times. I'm going to talk about it right now. We've talked about FMA schools, Filipino martial arts schools. All right. First of all, I'll keep saying this, and it's my phrase: we got to get the F out, because we handicap ourselves when we say we can't have professional schools. Then, perhaps I need to get into to get more controversial.
He's always stirring things up.
So then we had a conversation, and we were on Dean's show. We did a multi-part thing, and a whole bunch of schools came up after I had the initial conversation. I'm not calling people a liar. I would like to vet these schools. Dean's loving that. Because here's the thing. There's a difference between being a professional and having a professional school. Hey, Dean, you got time to come on the show real quick? Because I'd like to talk about this real quick, if you don't mind. If you don't mind me derailing the show for a minute there, Ty.
Dean railing the show?
Dean railing. Dean, you got a few minutes?
Danny's got it right there.
Sure, okay, here we go. I'm going to send it to you on Messenger here. Let me just Dean Branco.
So look at Danny's comment, Coach Danny. Or is it there? He's got a promotion recently. There's a new title, but I don't know all the Bikini titles. Not going to congratulate him again because I keep doing that, but I wish I could say that. Right. Yep. But there you go. You want respect, be respectful and ethical in all your dealings. Be the thing that you want to see more of.
Yeah. So Dean, I just sent it to you. So by all means,
he has to put on a shirt and put his makeup on.
Yeah. Get rid of that loincloth and all that other stuff.
That's right.
There
we go, giving people a hard time again.
Danny is good enough.
All right, very good. Gotcha.
I'm still probably going to say Coach Danny because,
it's built in. Yes.
It's not that I need to call you Danny or need to call you Coach, but you're known as Coach Danny.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to like Datu Tim and PG Ty. It's about the brand. Look, there he is.
Ooh,
hey,
wow.
How you doing, Dean?
You look very good.
So, how are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm going on a rant about the world. But
I got him started.
Well, we're talking about the show that you were on, or we were on your show, and I just wanted to touch base on something. Like, remember when we got in the talk about who's a professional school and all these names came up?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So here's a question I have because I wasn't part of I didn't see the list.
Okay.
Just that and they go, Dean.
So Coach Danny.
You see, it's not just me, Coach Danny.
That's right.
Oh, it's funny. You, Dean, everyone thought you're promoting people to Maestro now.
Right.
Well, because everyone knows, like, what I go, what? He was introduced as a Maestro. No. That's like saying Guru. It's a generic thing, but the person in question had never heard that before, so they're like,
Oh, I do use that a lot.
shoot,
yeah.
pizza time. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that guy.
so when we had the list of because I know a bunch of people reached out to you.
Correct.
Here's a question: do you think any of these guys may have been professional martial artists and doing it as a business, but still didn't have a full-time school?
I mean, the list was
you
suspect.
can be a personal trainer, but still not own a gym.
Yeah. So I think what it was is there was some misconstruement by many as far as the criteria that was established when you were on the show, and then the list kind of did come out. As a matter of fact, I made a post after the discussion, and then folks started adding like whether they thought they were or not, and some of it was suspect in that what you just brought up, whether or not they had a physical location or they were working at a whatever, part-time.
And I know a bunch of these were Ace's friends.
I think
Or
a couple.
Yeah, a couple of people in question was like, "Oh no, we got these people." I'm like, I would, because at the end of the day, here's the criteria I follow. Okay, do you have your own keys? Do you set your own hours, or are you going by somebody? Because you could be have a very successful business running it out of a rec center.
Yeah,
but that's not a school. That's a rec center that offers classes.
The other criteria was established when we were on there is the majority of the classes being taught FMA?
There you go. Is the money come? How are you keeping the doors open?
Right.
If you're doing it through karate, it's not an FMA school.
Yeah, in other words, you could have a BJJ program there we were talking about, and maybe, that's running a couple times a week or what have you, but if the majority of the classes being taught were FMA.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I'm not trying, and that by no means is that trying to tear someone down, but,
Oh, yeah, no.
I remember I was talking, this is when Paulo had a school down in Maryland before he moved to Florida. Now he's back, but this is like 2005-ish maybe. And we were talking to one guy, he's like, yeah, well, he's got a huge FMA school. No, he's got a huge school. He's got about 20 students of FMA, and he's got like 400 people between Taekwondo and cardio kickboxing.
Is that still the case now?
No. I think he's open full-time Arnis or FMA. But I don't know where his money comes from. Is the core of his money seminars? Is the core of the money the virtual classes?
I would say if I had to guess when I had him on the show, that was covered a bit. And if I had to guess, I'm going to say, I think all the above. It seems like he definitely does the seminar tours, but in addition, it seems like he's also into the consulting aspect. Obviously his link to Taekwondo, not just in America, but Latin America too. So what he's doing, he's going down there and getting these guys to incorporate basically his program in there. So I think all the above,
Yeah, I mean, listen, most of my income came through seminars. Now I'm doing it on the school. So I was a martial arts instructor who had a school. When you're doing 30 plus seminars a year, I think where my money was coming from. It wasn't from the day-to-day business of the school.
I think it's fair to if you're going to start with comparisons or start making some comments that are general, then it's fair to establish a baseline of what's in that pot, and not just for the obvious reason of, hey, comparing apples to apples, but it also then doesn't put other people on the spot for people that are not maybe in that same boat, and they don't, what I'm saying, it doesn't put them on the hook for doing it. Why aren't you doing X, Y, and Z? Well, I teach in the park for free, so nobody should expect that for me. Those kinds of things, right?
Mhm.
It's fair for communication and it's fair for expectation.
Yeah.
Or you could get all butthurt and take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
Some people did get were bothered by the. I'm just reflecting back to the post I put in for discussion because my post was genuine. I was really trying to find out, like, because we identified about 5 schools on the actual show. So I was trying to actually, but some people were saying more. So I made the post to really try to get a concrete number of the schools based on that criteria. Some folks were upset about the criteria. Some, maybe, they missed by, whatever, 1, 2 things. So there was some of that, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Well, if we're talking a school, and now we're getting off down the trail. If we're talking a school,
see what happens when you bring me on. See,
I'll get us back on track here. I'm giving it a few more minutes.
It's all your fault.
And then you guys can boot me.
I think that's the only reason Tim invited you on.
Wait a minute. Boom! There he goes. Oh, no, he's back. Well, I'm a rude bastard, so I gotta
There you go.
I gotta do it. So, yes.
But at the end of I do recall the lists went from what was initially we thought of 5. I think it got, I think it got into the teens. I want to say the low teens.
I would question that because
That's
once again, listen, I'm not talking about people making money. Listen, you could be very profitable teaching martial arts without owning a school.
Mm-hmm.
Remy did it. I could have dropped the school and made better money. But I liked having that laboratory for me to do my thing.
Yeah.
So, but the thing here is, when we did that show, because this was talk about me being, it's all about this show's a lot of people saying Tim's a dick, I'm not trying to be a dick. What I'm trying to do is listen, comparing us to the rest of the martial art industry. Okay. What is a Taekwondo school? What is a karate school? What is a Kung Fu school? And if we're talking a school, to me, that is a dedicated building. School, not a program.
Yeah.
I taught out of my church. I taught out of a gym. I taught out of a lot of places. It wasn't a school. I offered classes at these facilities. I think
part of the thing is that the same thing of getting the F out, right? What would pass for a karate school? What are the rules for that? What would pass for a Kung Fu schools? What are the rules for that? It's the same thing if you're talking about a martial arts school that concentrates on FMA. Yeah. Same rules.
Obviously, they're teaching mostly Taekwondo classes if it's a Taekwondo school, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. There you go. Yep. So the majority of it, if the majority of the classes are Taekwondo, ergo it's a Taekwondo school. So, most of the people, and I'm not going to pick on the guy when I say this, Alex Omaza, he talked about this. He's like, when we were interviewing Bobby, so we need Balintawak schools and Arnis schools and all this other stuff. And the comment was, well, it's Filipino. We're not going to have it. Well, that's bullshit. See, and this is why okay, so Ty, you want to know why you brought up why do people don't like me when I talk about this stuff? Here's a perfect example. I'm not mad at Alex. I'm mad at Alex. I'm mad at that Alex. Okay. If Alex has a family to provide for, so he's got to make sure he does the right thing by the family. So let's start with that. But if he had faith in the art and thought it had everything it needed, why was he teaching all the other stuff? Because his Filipino martial arts doesn't have everything he needs. Because he's doing Balintawak. And Balintawak is a very focused area of study, like doing Kabuto, like doing fencing, Iaido, Judo, or not Judo, Kendo. How many Kendo schools are out there? How many fencing schools are out there? I know there's a lot of places that teach fencing, but they're not a fencing school. It's a fencing instructor using a church or gym or whatever.
And just know that from Connecticut, there's not a lot a fencing schools. A lot of subletting,
A lot of subletting.
I only know of one, and it changed hands. Well, I only know one near me, and it changed hands
Yeah.
Mm.
So
during COVID.
not trying, but because I say these things, here we go. Business wise, the greatest amount of profit I ever made out of my garage compared to any other facility I had. No, there you go.
Yeah,
Overhead.
There you go.
Zero.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with the home Joe,
Right.
the home dojo,
Yeah.
but I'm assuming here I'll force myself, Danny. It's hard to say that. It's hard to say, hard not to put coach in front of it. I'm assuming you made money somewhere else. I'm assuming that your income was not based on your martial arts.
Right.
That it was supplemental income, but it wasn't the primary income. And because I make these comments and I don't mix words, because the problem here is, the FMA industry, like all the other industries, we're filled with so many charlatans in our group. People who are exaggerating. I might embellish a little, but I try to stay as close to the core, because I've had so many people upset because I put the work in and they didn't. We had this union mindset that people started before me, and when I started passing them, because I actually put the work in, I actually did the material. You did 1 2-hour class a week. That's great. Well, how many do you do, Tim? I do 5 hours a day. I do this 5-6 days. That's why it took so long for me to find somebody in my life.
Oh yeah. Okay. I tried to teach from the garage problem. People kept passing out.
See the stuff we got to do. Good evening.
The guy killed me.
Okay, there we go. Always been part of what I teach. Right. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with the synthesis. There's nothing wrong with the blend. I mean, that was what Remy promoted. Once again, why was Modern Arnis? And this is the thing. I take shots at my own group, my own people. And for years, he had a full-time job. There we go. With Yona Dojo.
Hey, you know what? I missed. If you don't mind, can I ask about something?
Sure.
Not to change the subject, but I don't know why I'm so curious about this, but I am. What? And it's not really important, I guess. But what was the relationship between, if there was any, and I know you were talking about this, but I was going back and forth between YouTube and here. Far as Dan Asano and Remy, was there a relationship there? I mean, was there?
There's not a student-teacher thing there.
So it was just more or less two peers.
There was a. Oh, that's cool. Cool. There was a. All right, if there's a 2-part article in Inside Kung Fu. And I'm gonna pull up the covers again. If you get a chance, I can't see the. Okay, it is the December 1990. And there's someone selling it for $20 on Amazon or eBay. So there was a 2-part article in Inside Kung Fu on that cover right there.
Okay.
So this was the only mentioning I've ever seen about Remy and Asano in a Remy article. And what it was Remy was doing a seminar somewhere, demo or whatever, and Asano attended, and Asano got Remy to autograph the book, and invited Remy to a banquet or a barbecue afterwards, or the day after. Remy was living with Dean Stockwell, the actor. The two of them went to it, and Remy said, "Dude, you got to get into your FMA. You got to do your culture," because Remy was a big advocate and was very upset that more Filipinos didn't take interest in their martial art culture. I go, even today, here we go, even today, I know of only one, and I haven't been to it, There's Dulce Pares headquarters. Besides that, I don't know of any Filipino martial arts schools in the Philippines. I know
after the headquarters in Cebu. I'm just trying to think from the show if there's anybody mention anything in regards to
talking
past
school.
show.
I'm not talking teaching out of the park. I mean, we can talk about Riddell Daguk. He had Arnis Village. It closed down. The original one closed down because it wasn't making money.
Right.
He then years later built a dojo on his own property, which is also part of his smoking sticks production because he stores a lot of his product there. I have never seen the numbers to support that kind of.
When you say school, anything under the umbrella FMA?
No, he's got. The only schools I've seen in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Taekwondo.
School.
No, and BJJ is starting to pop up, but there was the old school above the infamous gym where Tony Diego was teaching him on that, but I think that's since then has been closed down or what have you. So he might be right as far as the Dos Pares. He could be correct. But so PG Tim, what about Yaoyan? Would that fall in the umbrella of FMA?
FMA, sure, yeah.
Because I think there is a gym or two.
Okay.
Now, I can't tell you the dynamics of them as far as like teaching and how many hours are dedicated to teaching and all that. But I think there's a couple gyms in there.
Well, I think the point is made just by the fact that we can't, we're having to rack our brains to think of examples. That kind of makes
think about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Remy had a school there. Remy had a school in Quiapo on the 3rd floor. Ernesto eventually took it over. And so they were renting space out of a commercial building.
Yeah.
So
I think it's I don't know. You could very well be right. I mean, unless I was just mentioning to Tim. I mean, Tony Diego had the infamous gym above, but I think that's been long gone for a while.
Well, I mean, we met Tony. Well, actually, Ty, did you meet Tony?
I don't think so. No.
So I met Tony a couple times. I was there.
Were you in the park or the gym?
When he was in the park.
Yeah.
So, but for the longest time, I mean, I've never known. I've known people who've rent space out places, but it was 1 day a week type stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, hell, the Bluntwa school is in the back of.
I mean, think about that. But here, think about this though. Think about it. That's actually true over there. That the Dos Pares is the only school over there. Like, let's just say that's correct. I mean, that's pretty sad, I mean,
and I still don't even know if that's a school. That's their world. That's their headquarters.
Or their headquarters / this / that. But still, though, that's pretty sad.
Now there are some Yaoyan gyms over there.
I just was mentioning at the PG. Yes.
But that's a martial sport. And it might be.
Yeah, but if it falls under the umbrella of FMA, couldn't that constitute?
I would still need to see these clubs to see if they're a standalone thing or if they're underneath something else.
Datu needs to see it. He needs to see it.
Well, no, because yeah. I mean, no. Okay. Is it on someone's property and they're paying for it another way? I mean.
I know. I get you. Yeah.
Because listen, I want more schools to be out there.
I know it's just sad though when you look at the motherland, the mother country of
All right, so who is this guy? I maintain 2 schools in Cavite on with regular classes.
Well, fantastic. I'm not sure.
So who is that? Because it's not coming up. There are a few schools of the FMA in the Philippines, but most of them are teaching in the parks. In fact, that's not a school.
Right.
Yeah, it's sad.
So I mean, why is it?
Can come back with he can come. The guy was talking about
convenience. Yeah, guys teaching out of the park. Well,
Well, I think what as we pull the thread on this, I think the important piece is that if you have a school, there's a certain commitment and responsibility and depth of the whole picture, right? That requires and necessitates, and hopefully then there's some inertia, right? And so there's something to point at. You point at a group training in the park, that could fold tomorrow.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, a school can too, but hopefully there's a little more inertia there.
Okay, so once again, the show is about what makes Tim Hartman tick, and how I really what it is why do I piss
Oh my
people off? That's
gosh.
really what the show is.
Oh, I'm
So-
sorry, we digressed.
Well, no, but here we go.
We'll get there back. We'll
Okay,
get there.
but here's okay. Well, I need you to, because we were talking about the school thing, and that was the big
Yeah.
thing, and people didn't like what I was saying. Here's the question, Dean. Well, let's and I'm going to talk about these things right here that Bill from Guam was talking about, defensive tactic systems. Listen, where do you think my intent is from? And I want you to tell us what you think my intent about my whole conversation.
Oh, your intent is definitely pure. Your intent is that you wanted to see more because of when you raise your famous cliche, whenever you raise the tide. You're gonna have to finish that one though. I can't remember exactly.
And it's not mine; it's somebody else's. But a rising tide lifts all ships.
There we go. But at any rate, so back to what you were asking. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, you generally want to see more FMA schools pop up to carry out these arts because of your fear of some of them dying out or not being propagated. For instance, your fear of Modern Arnis and all that. And I think there's a few more that are in front of Modern Arnis, to be quite honest. I keep bringing up Lamego, but and a few others. But yeah, so I think I perceived your intentions. I think most that did see that or thought they were sincere and all that. And those who don't, they got some stuff, going on that has nothing to do with you. Would be my.
So we'll talk about this. Okay. So right here, what Bill was saying, there are a few schools in the Philippines, FMA schools, but most of them are still teaching in parks and backyards. Well, then how is that a school? I'm trying to. Here's the thing. When we are interacting with people in the martial art industry, because once again, I want the F out. I want us to think we're all on the same playing field here.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to look at us with any respect when we're saying, "Oh, we've got a school. Where do you teach?" I'm in the park on Sundays.
No, I know.
Okay. Or here, teaches out of the park and in a couple houses.
Yeah.
What, in your backyard? I mean, I'm not trying to make fun of him, but
no.
Yeah. But now someone's going to take it that I'm taking a shot at Bill. I'm not taking a shot at Bill.
Right.
If I was going to say Bill's an asshole, I'll say, "Hey, Bill, you're an asshole." Bill, you're an asshole, but you're our kind of asshole. There we go. No. But I mean, the thing here is that, and Carl, part-time school. So Carl has a school. He's a paralegal by trade. His school pays for itself. So he rents space out of a building. He has the key. He can come and go as he pleases. The business pays for itself, but it's only a part-time school. He's not taking money out of his pocket to run that entity.
Gotcha.
Excellent. And that's you should be proud of that.
And here we go. Look at this person. That's a training group, not a school. Exactly. Danny gets it. Look, I'm getting better. I said Danny and not coach.
There you go.
I feel so
Most
good.
do though. I mean, most did understand like what was being mentioned during those shows as far as what constitutes a full-time FMA school. Most got it. The ones that maybe were a little disenfranchised because they weren't inclusive or they weren't included by maybe one or two things. You know what I mean? But I thought most got it and most didn't have an issue with what was being discussed, was my feeling.
Well, and I mean, at the end of the day, if you rent your own facility, you can come and go as you please, and twice. There we go. Twice. Whatever. I missed the twice thing. You come and go as you please. Once again, if I'm renting space from a gym or a rec center and I have to work on their hours, if I don't have an entrance of my own that I can come and go, listen, I used to teach out of an office suite. That was a part-time school. It had full-time hours. And eventually I made it a full-time school.
Yeah.
but it was a part-time school for the longest time because it paid for itself. I could run classes 24/7. I had all my own entrances,
Mm.
but I
Yeah,
wasn't
because
sitting
it's
there
weird. Because
saying,
matter of fact, Tom Painey was interviewing somebody or a test run. It was pretty recent, and this I just remember this this sticking out, and basically what the person says, wherever I teach or is my school, but he just meant that in kind of a generic way. He by no means was that meant like, yeah, wherever I teach is my full-time FMA school. You know what I mean? I was more like my heart, wherever I teach, my heart is there in that place and all that. So, you know what I mean? So, just different,
Yeah, there's the word schools and schools, kind of like theories and theories,
That's
right?
what I mean. Exactly.
Context matters. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Okay.
He didn't by no means meant
I hear
that
you.
he was running a full-time FMA school.
I get you.
I mean,
Uh,
the
But
great
that's why.
Burton. Look at Burton. Burton,
Yep.
in Hawaii, Burton teaches out of the basement of I believe, of a church.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ty's
So
been there multiple times.
yeah. So he doesn't claim that
and he hasn't kicked me out very often.
Yeah.
he has not.
Let's see here. Here we go. So Bill's got the problem with FMA groups in the Philippines is that they're still trying to be the big dog in the pack, but the organizational ability hampers them. And then, of course, bring it on, bitch.
Actually, that's going to bring us back on track here as soon as you guys wind down. That actually will.
And I thought you people were Arnis point to turn out. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Someone being mugged. Okay, so, but I mean, the thing here is when I talk about this stuff, since people don't like what I say, a lot of times they're trying to say I'm picking on them and I'm trying to cause trouble. When I'm trying to raise our level of awareness and more importantly, put things in a better perspective so people don't. We are judged by our community. And fortunately, I wear a karate gi because it wasn't mandated. The Filipino gis that they all wear are based on century martial arts karate gi. Remy got one, went back to the Philippines. Everyone copied it. So it is an Americanized version of a Japanese uniform.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's talking about this, but like you look at the pictures, we were talking to Dieter about this. Oh, no, this is back in the 70s. No, if you looked at Remy was wearing the night shirts until Bruce Jutnick bought the uniform for him. And Remy thought it was the biggest thing since sliced bread. And then the Filipinos started copying them. And that's why we got the uniforms. Actually, you go to Lennon Park, there's still a bunch of people that are wearing judo and karate gis in the park because they're easy to get a hold of.
So if we want to get back on track, and I'm not trying to shut you guys down, but I kind of am.
Actually, I would.
Okay. What I want to do is pull the thread on, hey, what you even said to Bill there. Hey, if I want to call you an X, I'm going to just say that. So here's the thing I'm going to throw out there, and you can tell me how you'd like to characterize it, is that, look, if you think that if you have to think or interpret that Tim is calling you an X, Y, or Z, or whatever, but he didn't actually call you that, then he's probably not trying to call you that because he will just straight up and call you that. What do you say, Tim, all the time about stabbing in the back?
If I stab you in the back, it's an exit wound, not an entry.
That's
not
right.
an entry wound, because
Full
I'm going to
on.
stab you in the front and it's going out your back.
So would you think it'd be fair to say, and I'm putting words in your mouth here, but I want to help here. So if people are offended by what you say and they're going to take it personally, but you actually didn't say what they're interpreting, should they maybe look harder and say, wait, what are the message you're trying to get? Because Datu Tim's going to call me an a-hole right to my face. So obviously he's not really doing that. So some people have to sort of come to the table with giving you some credit for being honest, I guess. How else would you characterize that?
Yeah, get back to the dirt on Tim.
There you go.
I mean, info involvement in the FMA. And then here we go. Datu, you're trying to educate and clear up misunderstandings. It's a mark of a good person. Listen, here's the deal. So I have gone out of my way to say things to. Okay, so Remy dies. It's a shit show afterwards. No different than when any other founder has passed away. Okay. I wear a kilt, so does Ty. What is a sideshow when the wind blows?
That's right. If it's really windy, it's a little challenging. Get the Marilyn Monroe moment.
Okay, so I continue to promote myself as a martial artist because seminars is a big way I make money. It's how I was supporting my family. Okay. So in 2000, I was no longer working in the automotive industry. This is all I did. So this is 2022, and I've been supporting myself with my martial arts. Okay. With my, wait for it, Filipino martial arts. I buy my cars, I pay my rent, I do all this, all this stuff I do on my Filipino martial arts, which just goes to show that we could do this. But now Remy dies, and then everyone is going bonkers. So one of the things that I have the honors, and we'll talk about that in a minute, is that I was the highest tested black belt. So I chose to test because a lot of people were jealous of my relationship with Remy. And I felt that I had to take the floor every single time for multiple reasons. One of which, if Remy was going to have a student of any consequence, a name as a modern Arnis practitioner, then I had to be committed to the art, and I had to be prepared to perform at any time. And as I pointed out, actually, as Brian Z talked about recently, during a post he did, a video post, he said that basically he only tested for his black belt, and everything else he was just awarded. Am I getting that one right there, Ty?
I think that's how I remember it. Yeah.
So if people want to walk around as untested masters, that's fine. But if Arnis is the primary art that I do, then I need to go out there and show. I mean, we've gone to open martial art tournaments and taking our Filipino martial arts, and we've won. I have a guy who became a cage fighting champion based on the Filipino martial arts I taught him. We've done all these different things. And I'm never been afraid of showing my stuff. So one of the things I would talk about on my thing, hey, I was the highest tested black belt. Well, then I have other black belts saying, what are you trying to say? Well, what do you mean? What are you saying about us? I'm not saying anything about you. I'm saying I'm the highest tested black belt. What are you trying to say because we didn't test? Wait a minute. Who the hell said that? I didn't say that. And I didn't even know you never tested for your black belt. And there's a bunch of them that only tested for their black, and then actually things afterwards were time in and stuff like that. I go, and listen, if Remy wanted to promote them, they must have known their stuff. Maybe he just said, you know what, listen, I see you guys on the side, or we're working all the time. You've grown enough. I don't need to see you do this. It's more symbolic, But I chose to take the floor because I actually saw some performances on the testing floor that I didn't like. So my students and I redefined the performance. We were redefining what the standards were every belt as we went out there. So let me see. Tim and I have had disagreements since the 90s. Have we? But the older I get, I just remember one.
Okay. So are you saying though that if you're taking credit for X, you're actually just doing that? You're not actually taking credit away from other people. You're just saying, hey, claiming this credit that you earned, and anything else that anybody reads into is all on them.
I remember that's it. I mean, I remember there was a business seminar we went to, martial business seminar. Tommy Lee, not the guy from Motley Crue, but Tommy Lee, was really hot guy at the time, a real hip up dude inside the industry, down in the Maryland area. He was supposed to come to Buffalo. We had a family member pass. I just couldn't do it, so I shipped him off. So I found someone in Rochester. Matt Dorsey hosted him, and it worked out. Everything worked out well. I went to the event. So we're having dinner afterwards, and he goes to me, "So Tim, like, are you the guy?" I'm like, I'm the most visible. And that's something. Okay, so Ty can contest to this. There was not a more visible student for Remy's art at that time. I was doing 20 seminars a year on my own while Remy was alive. Matter of fact, the one camp that I went to, I flew in from Sweden 2 days prior to the camp, hopped on a plane, and then went down to Texas to hang out with those guys. He goes, I met Tim several times, always respectful. Oh, thank you. So, I was the most visible student that Remy had doing Remy's art.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not saying I was more visible than Kelly Warden. Kelly Warden's very visible, but it's not for doing Remy's art. It's for doing the NSI blend, the Renegade Jeet Kune Do, and which Modern Arnis is part of the synthesis, but it is not the banner that he carries.
Actually, I want to touch on that since Pizza said something about respectful, and that, it's been bugging me a little bit just over the time, and not just here, everywhere. I think people confuse respectfulness with deference, and those aren't always the same things. I can be bluntly respectful to you and totally mean it, and you will get it. It doesn't mean I'm licking your feet. And I think if you give what I've noticed with him, and we, we knew each other in the 90s, but I'm not a student of him. He's not, we did not train together in that sense. And what I've noticed is that he will bluntly call you on your shit, but he respects you as whatever it is that you are doing, whether it's a person or your art or your commitment. But he will call you on your shit. That's, if you can't handle that, I'm sorry, but but if you look underneath it, the respect is there. The deference may not be, but that's a different thing.
I saw a guy wearing a 5XL shirt. He was very visible.
That was well put.
PG is right on. Well, I remember. So the guy who's doing the article was talking to your teacher, Eric Alexander. And during the article, a lot of the article, there was a good chunk in the article about me, evidently, initially, but Black Belt made cut it down. And one of the things he said was, what I was told is what Eric said is like, when I first met Tim, I thought he was a real cocky guy because he said all this stuff. And then I realized he could do everything he was saying. And he wasn't trying to brag. It was just, no, I do this, I can do this, and blah, 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 blah. And it was just more of a matter of a fact type thing. It wasn't rubbing it in anyone's face. It was just like, no, you can do that. No, here, it works like this. It works like that,
Mm-hmm. Confidence is scary, though.
It does intimidate people, and I am
the
intimidator. But I mean,
that's right.
I don't listen. There was people that lit a fire underneath my ass. Bobby Sullen and I were really good friends. I joked that he and I almost became brother-in-laws. We won't talk about how that would have happened, but the thing here is, Remy, he and I were like the two top sticks coming up at the time. Life took him in a different direction, but Remy was constantly lighting a fire underneath both of us. That friendly competition, like, you son of a bitch, you did better than me today. And I'd work harder, but it was like, hey, let's go get a drink. Okay, let's do it. It was one of those things. I watched not this past Buffalo Bills game, it didn't do too well, but I'm watching some other ones where the guys on the Buffalo defense were doing fist bumps to the quarterback on the other side. Like, hey man, good game, good, and they're hanging out in the middle of the game shooting the shit. Like here we are in the middle of a football game, and they're all like, hey, you're doing really good. Hey, give me 5. Here, go, boom, boom, boom. Because they're not taking it personal. It's professional.
Right. Well, the other aspect of the deference respect thing is that deference can only be one-way respect. Even if you're going to mean it respectfully, it only goes one way. If I'm deferential to Grandmaster Dimbrenko here, and I totally defer to him, and he requires that, he obviously that's right. He obviously thinks differently of me than I do of him. So it's not a two-way street. There's no mutual recognition there. And I think the peer interactions, are valuable enough to keep the more egalitarian respect to be the main focus that we should all have. That's in my mind.
PG Ty, there are two types of respect. One is implied, the other is given.
Yeah.
And that's
required and given.
One of the other things too, like where people got me twisted.
Mm-hmm.
So I throw martial arts out the window.
Mm-hmm.
I give everyone the basic line of the baseline of respect, no matter who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Until they don't deserve it anymore. That's my motto.
There you go. Now, some people, martial art luminaries, I give them a couple notches, but some of those people very quickly have dropped down to no. There are a bunch of people, in my opinion, in the modern Arnis industry, along the FMA industry as a whole, that I don't like. I don't think they're good people. I think they're very bad people. And we've talked about some of this stuff in the past. I'm not going to go down the path, because I don't want to ruin someone else's opinion of someone. There's people that I wouldn't think twice on if they passed tomorrow. They died tomorrow, but I don't want them to die because there's people in their life that love and respect them, and I'd hate to see those people put in those situations. It's not an issue of I like this person. I don't wish ill on anyone. There's some people I'd like to punch in the face. Don't get me wrong, but even the people that have done me the wrong the most, I don't want to see them die because someone in their life would be sad.
Right.
I don't want to see them die before their time. Sooner or later, they're going to go. Okay, we're all going to go, except for me. I'm going to live forever. So,
well, I mean, another piece of that is and I'm always linking things, but one of the things I remember is as I was getting back and coming out of my hermitage, right after the professor passed, I went and taught and trained on the side and just by myself. When I was coming back out of that and interacting with more of the groups again, and one of the things that I was already noticing that, hey, I want to interact with all the groups. Anybody who might say that I should pick some group would automatically kind of be on the negative side of that choice. One of the things that Tim came out on his own when we were interacting is, hey, I get it that you want to, interact with all these people, some of the people you came up with, support all the students because that's your focus in the art. Never put me in that position. I cannot say that about some of the other groups. And it's a great way to burn bridges. You force me to make a choice. You might not be on the side of that choice because the other guys aren't.
Well,
and that's respectful, I think, too. Right. But I think that's respectful as well, right? So you're respecting the person that's associating with you to trust that, hey, they're going to do what is right for them. And that's okay.
Everyone, same until proved different. Yep.
Yeah.
Treat everyone. Okay.
Yep.
Rodney Danger knew about respect. I tell you, hey. Tim said he lived a fellow Highlander. Yes.
See if they're quickening.
I want to see if I can break SSI.
There you go.
I want to break it up. See what I can do to SSI. I want to get my money's worth out of it is what I want to do. But
there you go.
So,
go ahead.
No, but I mean, when I tell a lot of people, if you go somewhere, I will tell the places to go where you should mention my name. I also tell the places that if you go to, you shouldn't mention my name. And I remember Ty and I were talking about, he was in town. I was out of town for an event, and he happened to come into town, and SSI will give me an IOU. That's nice. And he was talking to some people, and the person said, well, I have a problem with him, but I don't want to bring that up. I was like, you lying piece of shit. You wanted to bring it up. That's why you said it. If you didn't want to bring it up, Ty has been around where I've been in the room with people that I despise, and I've talked to the students, and I've never said one negative thing to the students. Because my issue with the person is my issue with the person. People who've gone out of their way to mess with me or mess with my financials. Okay. And if their students are there, hey, how you doing? Oh, you're a student of Dean. Oh, yeah, Dean and I are classmates. Boom. It would be one of those type comments. Oh, I know Dean. Yeah, no, we all train with Remy together. Boom. That's the kind of comments that I would make out, because whatever my problem is, I'm not making it my student's problem. Now, that I know that doesn't happen the other way around. I know that people have gone on and gone out of their way to make comments and get on their soapbox in their seminars. And I know that Ty was practically interrogated at an event because he showed up. Well, what are you doing here? I'm like,
oh, jeez.
And I'm a nice guy. I'm an asshole, but I'm a nice guy. Well, actually, let's pull that thread about the challenges. I wanted to get back to, and I don't think I've told you that I might go this way, but since we touched upon this, and it's sort of something I wanted to touch into. Some of the challenges that people have given you in terms of hard times or problems or attacks, things like that. What are some of those? How did you take them? What did you, how did you get around? How do you get past that?
It is tough to get past stuff when people are going out of their way to mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
It is very hard. And I can't. Some of the stuff has just been. It's been really, really rough dealing with. But at the end of the day, what I had to go with, and it's hard because your head, you still get inside your head because we're human.
Mhm.
I look at what I'm doing and I look what they're doing, and really, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, these people, I don't talk about and we, the three of us, the two of you guys, I've had conversation with people that I don't want to be around because we talk about events we might be putting together and stuff like this. I go, if the person's there, I'll act professionally, but I have no interest in working with the person. But if I'm coming in to do an event for you and that person shows up, I will be professional. Okay. But at the end of the day, when people, it's rough when people go out of their way to mess with you. But like I said, I still go back to the basics. What are they doing? What are you doing? What am I doing? I'm looking like I've got a full-time school. I'm still going to be doing like 20 plus seminars a year now, even after COVID. I've taught in DC and 28 US states, more coming. I've taught, in addition to the United States, 16 countries, but I'm adding 3 more by the end of the year. So my total, including the United States, will be like 20 countries. I did the first Filipino martial arts seminar ever in Iceland. I mean, I look at my pedigree and the stuff I've done. I've got nothing, I look at what everyone else is doing. They're doing nothing. It's just, but the thing here is that people go out of their way to put themselves in my crosshairs. Or they just do stupid ass shit that people don't know about. Like Brian Z made that comment about the camps. He started talking about Remy camps, and then he started talking about post Remy camps. Well, one, it's not the same. Secondly, you got the information wrong.
You know what they say though? They go after the ball, the guy with the ball.
Well, Remy told me that the better I do, the louder the dogs will bark. I must be doing a damn good job.
But here's the thing. I mean, like I've gotten a lot of, I don't air it out. I don't make it publicly known. I don't speak on it because I try to just squash it, bury it, where it doesn't grow, evolve into more drama. But I can tell you countless times people trying to sabotage me, what I've done with FMA discussion. I mean, now, not so much now because I've just rode the tide and all that. But in the beginning, I mean, yeah, there was some stuff that some folks were doing that wasn't really so nice.
Yeah, well, I think actually we got a couple comments on there. There's a 10:05.
Hold on,
because I can't pull them up. Sorry, guys.
Okay, there we go.
No one dares to share their dirty laundry. Keep the skid marks at home. That's good. And then Danny follows it up with hard as it is, be above it, be the better person.
Yeah.
And I've heard things like that from Tim. He would say, good for them.
Yeah, definitely be a better person. Yeah, for sure.
Good for them.
Hey, we'd love to have you there at the Caribbean.
There you
go. October 2023, Barbados, baby.
Is that? Oh, you're going?
Oh, you didn't.
Yeah,
I'm a co-host.
Right. But we've talked about that in the past too. It's like, hey, some other martial arts organization is doing X, and it might be somewhat what we're not interested in, or the way we would do it, but it's working for them, and you just go, okay, good for them. That's okay. Speaking of which, so the others doing Modern Arnis, you've said this before, right? The rising tide raises all the boats. So the other groups and people doing Modern Arnis, what is your true feeling? Not personally, but for the benefit of the art. As long as people are doing Modern Arnis, what do you mean when you said a few things about that?
So, I am a snob when it comes to certain things.
Your expectations, so I got it. But beyond that,
it has to be Remy's art, not something else.
Mm-hmm.
But here's my challenge. I've challenged the Modern Arnis community. Mm-hmm. Stop doing promotions and start producing people. We have like 12 people walking around with grandmaster titles when there should have only been one, and they're not producing masters, let alone black belts. And I think it's ridiculous. I think it's an insult to the arts as a whole, not just Modern Arnis, not just FMA. I'm talking the entire martial art industry. we don't need to promote people. We need to produce them so there's another generation. If you're not doing the job, why get the promotion? Why would you be the grandmaster if you don't have students, or if you only have a handful of students? If you inherited, it'd be one thing. But in Remy's book, it said at the time, when did he write that? 70
something. I can't remember.
So it said that I had 27 years of experience.
Right.
That's why he's the grandmaster.
Right.
Well, then people started saying, well, I got 27 years. So, well, he redid the book
Without changing the 27
mark, and he didn't update that section, which would have been, I'm the grandmaster because I have 50 plus years of experience.
Right.
And at that time, the people who had 27 years experience or close to that, none of them were beyond 6th-degree black belts. So stop with that. That's all bullshit.
Right. You had
being a wordsmith.
You had a context there, yeah. But in general, though, I mean, I think we've talked about also too. Hey, Joe Schmo, regardless of organization, whatever, doing Modern Arnis, that's a good thing, no matter what organization they're in.
We need more people doing the art.
Right.
If you look at this, okay, so I've had people from other organizations. I've had independents on the show. We have people that we don't agree with on the show.
Yep.
And that's fine. That's fine. Lauren Thurian was on. He thought I was upset at him because we disagree with stuff. We talked about it later. Like, no, dude. Did you see that?
I got a question though.
Oh, go ahead.
You guys, okay. I look at it, I see a lot of Modern Arnis practitioners. Are you concerned with that you don't have enough practitioners, or that there's not enough being promoted to black belt?
Yes. Both.
There's not enough, and there's not enough good teachers.
So
there's a lack of good teachers, and those are not really pulling people up through the ranks.
That latter thing, especially, yeah. People are not making new good teachers. The next generation is a big concern.
Oh, hold on.
Really?
I think all of us have been through the ridicule and targeting on what they've done. We first came out in the scene, the teacher. Yep. Listen, when you start promoting people who haven't done anything to produce, what's the sense?
Right.
It's, to me, I'm insulted. And if people don't like it, too freaking bad. Because when I do stuff that they don't like, I get to hear about it. So there's a hypocrisy that people don't mind calling shit on me. And then later, like, well, Tim made claims. No, promote the art. Tim didn't make claims. Tim made a freaking statement. And then when you looked at it, you found out. I remember, I'm not going to mention the person's name. But we talked about that. Okay, if you look up at art, screw it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take a moment. You talk, Ty. I'm going to look this up real quick.
What are we talking about?
Just life, whatever. I don't care.
Oh, okay. Life. Okay, good.
I'm looking up about this. I mean, we're talking about the same rant, but I'm going to find.
Well, I'm going to actually talk a different thing. So, this is sort of about Tim. Why is he so blunt? Why does he grate on people's nerves? What is going on there? What is his purpose, etc.? Things like that. Sometimes people don't look past the other things. You know me, Dean, right? We've got to talk a little bit. You got to feel for me.
Sure.
Let me ask you this. Well, I don't want to. It's not about asking about me. What I want to do is say, so would you agree that generally, as far as you can tell, I'm a nice person and reasonably so, and also the asshole that I talked about. But in terms of respectful and nice, how do you think I fare?
No, absolutely. Like I mentioned, I mean, when I went to the camp, what was that?
Oh, that's right. It's Brian's at the.
Yeah, like you were the ones that actually made like a point to come over and say hello and all that. Besides Chris Chu. Right. And all that. So yeah, that's what really stood out. So
okay, well, and I'm not trying to take big credit for that. What I'm trying to do is as a springboard. So if you got that feel from me and you gauged me that way, and that I get along and see something good in associating and training with Tim, and you didn't like Tim, would you at least go, I wonder what's there, right? You would. If you gave me some credit at all as a thinking, honorable person.
Yeah, matter of fact, I do that all the time. Like, well, like if I get a weird vibe.
Why does anyone hang out with Tim?
Yeah, like if I get a weird vibe, I'm like, wait a minute though. But look at the people who are friends with him. Look who he hangs out with. There has to be something there that is appealing for these folks because these folks are good people that I know. So absolutely, I would definitely ponder and would want to invest in no more. Yeah, before passing a judgment.
That's been my point, especially people that knew me as I was coming up when I wasn't coming up under Tim. And they knew I was a hermit because of some of the games, and then they knew that I came out, and I started going to all sorts of events, and certainly now I'm doing probably the most with Tim for sure, but I'm not against any others. And they don't factor that in. I find that a little weird. So something is much more visceral, much more personal for them, and they're not looking past it, in my opinion.
So,
which is really too bad because
so well, hey, listen, I'll ask somebody, why do you get along with this guy? I don't care for him. What's going on? Yep. And I know some of the problems is it's me. It's not just Tim. It's what Tim stands for. It's what I'm doing. I know that people target. So here's one. So I'm going to pull this up. I put the link on from archive.org. I mean, this is it's in the discussion, but I'm going to pull this up. And I had someone go off on me on this, and it's hard to see.
I know which one this is.
You know exactly which one it is. Let me see if I can
change the font, man. Do it.
Okay, here we go. So I made a comment. FMA Pulse interviewed me, and one of the things I've always said, I've always tried to push, was I was the highest tested black belt. The one time it said I was the highest, I said the highest black belt. I thought I said highest tested. I let the word tested out because I was trying to make sure that nobody got butthurt. Someone got butthurt. Well, right, and then everyone started complaining. So Lisa McManus used to write these articles, Camp Chronicles, and would report on what happened. She did not give her spin on things. She wrote down what happened. And maybe she didn't have the best punctuation, but I've sent this out multiple times. And right here, 38 people participated in the test, including 20 testing for black belt or higher.
Nice.
Black belt or higher. Oh, by the way, evidently that is an example of people testing for above black belt. Evidently they didn't do it at the Massachusetts camps that Brian was at. Okay. Their performance of intensity was incredible and energizing. Following the test, which I participated, by the way, Tim Hartman was promoted to the rank of 6th degree, making him the highest ranking practitioner in the United States.
And this was, I'm sorry, what year?
2000.
2000.
But that was not her words.
That was her reporting went down.
Well, yeah, but that quote, I think, wasn't that Remy saying that you were the highest?
Yes, that was Remy saying. At the end of the test, Remy made a point saying that it was the highest test in over 17 years. Basically, is the highest test in the States ever.
Which Paul Johnulus and maybe others,
Paul Johnulus was there. And actually, all of the would-be masters of Tappy Tappy, except for Brian Zwolinski, was present when this went through.
And the words were saying, yeah.
We also talked about over here. And we talked
so why are you making all these unbased claims?
And here we go. Majority. Okay, they talked about taping while Tim Hartman and Kevin Black led taping of forms 1 through 8. Now, Dan Anderson keeps talking about these phantom forms all this time. Now, this was Remy's website, modernarnis.com.
Yep.
Okay. And Lisa's job, Lisa was not a fan of Tim Hartman.
No.
She was in Camp Jeff Delaney. Jeff wasn't doing these things. I was.
But that was the place to go for Remy information, was this site.
This was the place. And the funny thing was, okay, they put it out of chronological order to hide the article. Because we have July camp. This is July. Then we go to June. Then we go back to July because they tried to bury the camp. But that's another story.
So this is on the Wayback Machine. If anybody's interested, you can always
archive.org. I put the link right there in the discussion. So if you want to see this, but forever, and I still get this today, even after I give that's wrong because the punctuation was wrong because Lisa didn't quote Remy. Who said she was a good writer? Anybody back then knew. I mean, Ty, you knew about Lisa. What did Lisa do?
What do you mean? What'd she do?
When it comes to the camp things, the articles.
She she just basically her personal notes. Her notes, she wrote down her notes and shared with other people so that people could get a feel of what she saw.
So
she didn't editorialize.
No, so that was, so this is the kind of stuff, and like I said, I've had to deal with that one for the longest time. I'm like, for crying out loud, well, how dare you? And then I had people, oh, what about you saying you're above Sifu Lowry? No, Remy said I was above him, but he was a 6 before you. He was gone for years. He left in the mid 90s.
Is that when he left? Is that when he was done?
He was done in the mid 90s. That may have been a promotion to try to keep him in. It may have been a retirement promotion. Who knows?
That's about the time. The only reason why I asked that is because when I think back when I at that in-service, when I realized it was him and the significance of him was the late 90s or so. So it's interesting. So, but I remember it was at his place, and Remy did walk through. So I distinctly remember that.
Lowry was a big guy with Remy. There's no question about it. He was definitely part of the thing. And no one's trying to diminish his involvement.
Right.
But these were Remy's words. And listen, when you retire, it's like the champ. When you step down one reason or another, when you're not the champ, Muhammad Ali was always going to be referred to as the champ after he won his first championship. But he wasn't the champ anymore.
Right. Well, here's the thing. So if you point out accolades or whatever accomplishments you've done, again, it doesn't really talk about somebody has similar accolades maybe before you. It doesn't take anything away from them.
No, of course not.
That's the thing I don't get.
That I would get, and I'm like, dude, what is the problem here? It's not about you. It's about me. It's not about me and your event. It's about what I'm doing. And I'm trying, and constantly, everyone, when you promote yourself for business, someone feels that you're trying to tear them down. And I'm like, oh my God, what is this all about? You
may not have said anything about them whatsoever. You just said your stuff.
Which is insecurity.
Right.
Heck, insecurity and jealousy. I mean, I get it. I mean, I was the only guy that had a full-time academy of Modern Arnis. I produced more black belts, quality black belts, than anyone else did. Most people in Modern produce 1 to 3 black belts, most, if they produced a black belt. I had 21 black belts I produced. And some of my black belts were the same degrees as the masters at Tappy Tappy were before they got the tumor promotion. And yes, Danny. Look, I said Danny again.
That's 3 times, yeah. Well, I mean, so here you would agree. Well, you would understand this. I mean, you may not do this, but say, for example, I can actually claim I'm the highest, longest active, longest running student and highest ranked under my Kung Fu teacher, right? And I could make that claim, and it's true and it's factual, all those good things. But I can also say that, hey, I think that another person who's a couple ranks below me, he's 6th, I think, should be the inheritor, and I would fully support him and help him up.
And Ty has told me that privately, saying that when the time comes, I'm not going to go, but I'm going to support this guy.
Absolutely. So I take my credit for the things I'm part of. Okay, great. Doesn't make me any great thing, but it is truth, and it does matter to some people. And ranks like that are important for the students and the school and the organization. Yeah. But then the right person to go on is probably not me, because I don't have the active level that this other guy does, David Barnes. I would fully support him. 100%.
It's important we talk about that, because if you're the highest ranked guy, longest running student, and you're throwing your support to this guy, then that guy must know his shit. Or he must be committed to doing the job. And that's what we need. So, I mean, listen, myself, I told this to Ty a bunch of times. I would have followed somebody else if they had what I needed. But there was Remy. Listen, I can't tell you how many times, like Jason Arnold and the other guys who've logged in have made comments before. I was there when Remy said, training with Tim is like training with me. I had several, George Harris, Jason Arnold, like, hey, we want to spend more time with you. Why? You got Tim.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, and this was not in a situation where Remy never had to question my support.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If my support was being questioned, is because someone was putting stuff in Remy's ear. And
it didn't just happen with you; it happened with other people too. But yes,
you know, so I would go. We would go to the Michigan camp, and sometimes there'd be a third of the camp was my network, not my students, my network. Because I was the Can-Am director of the IMAF. All right. And I had a bunch of people, what they would do, and this is actually how I met Paul Johnulus. I was friends with his teacher, Ted Reddish, and Ted goes, when you go to camp, look for Tim Hartman. So it's all Ted's fault that we know Paul.
there you go.
But there's a bunch of guys that would do that. Like, hey, I can't go. I got to run the school. I'm sending my students. Look for Tim. He'll look out after you.
Yeah.
That's what I did on a regular basis if you went to Michigan.
And you've heard my, or maybe Dean hasn't, but you've heard my story. I'm going to bring it up anyway because it's pertinent. When we met you, me and my students met you at a camp in Texas. Where was Tim? He was visiting with us regular students rather than cloistered away with everyone else, doing bigwig stuff. He was more concerned about the students and the art and people that are coming up in my perspective.
So
yeah, that would be me as well. Like
I went to a lot of seminars where people didn't know who I was. They knew of me, but I would roll in and we wouldn't be wearing belts. We just have like the school T-shirt and gi pants, And then when it came time at the end of the seminar, all right, guys, gi up because we're going to do the formal bow out and do photos. Right. And they're all looking at me like, "You're one of Remy's black belts?" Yeah.
Then it happened at Bobby.
Part of it was like it made sense, Right. But the other thing was like, wait, he introduced you first. Yeah. And so
and you do that to this day. It happened at Bobby's anniversary camp.
Oh my God. So we're at Bobby's birthday camp and Ty and I go and I'm hanging out and this girl comes up. Hey, do you want a partner? Sure. Because Ty was having, I don't know if it was your hip or your shoulder at the time.
I was working with another guy, but yeah.
So this girl walks up to me. Hey, you want to be a partner? Sure. So we're having a good time hanging out. Then all of a sudden Bobby goes, okay, now this is, everyone sounds the same, so I can't do that. He goes, this is a good friend of mine, known him for years. He's a senior student of Remy Price's. And I start walking away. And the girl's like, wait a minute, why is my Tim going up there? Because I just say, hey, my name's Tim. And like, wait a minute. That's not Datu Tim. That's my Tim. And then I call up, hey, Duck, come up here. Give me a hand. Or Goose, come on up and give me a hand. Because her teacher goes, call her a nickname and stuff. I'm like, and at the end of the day, I'm like, she's telling her mom, that's my friend. Like,
well, this is what people they don't realize, right? So there's a difference between cockiness, business promotion, and confidence. And I think Tim is very good at business promotion. And he's very good at the confidence. I think people mistake all of that for cockiness because when he comes in here, he's just a regular dude. Like when I host a thing, he's just Tim. We talked about that before too.
Yeah.
He's just a guy. You can call him on his shit. And if you do it in a fair way, you can have a great joking discussion. It'll be all fine.
We will go to events. A bunch of us. Hi, my name is, I teach Filipino martial arts.
Right.
And the last one event I taught at Ty's, I first said, just put my name, Tim Hartman, down. Then I go, let's go with the Mighty Wizard Tim from Mighty Python. Right. But we're talking Virginia. There's like a clan element there. So I want to make sure there's,
doing the wizard.
I want to say the Grand Wizard, yes. Actually, okay, let's turn this around a little bit. I got one other place I wanted to touch on. I know it's getting kind of late.
Okay.
We've talked about, some of the challenges that people have given you, some of your purposes and intents.
Oh, and by the way, as many verbal challenges, no one showed up on my doorstep, and I've actually offered on many occasions we can sit down, talk, go for drinks, or do a little rattan therapy if you want, and no one
no surprise
has challenged me or taken me up on the offer.
Right. Well, and I didn't mean challenge that way. I meant challenge in terms of, hey.
Oh no, I just thought I would throw that one out there too.
Yep. No, but difficulties and hard times and targets and that kind of good stuff. But we talked about all that stuff. We talked about your bluntness. We talked about, hey, your calling Modernese practices is not calling, is still anybody doing Modernese, more power to them. I think that's good. But one of the things that we've called people out on things sometimes. I wanted to ask this question because I want to put money where the mouth is. So who that you have had concerns about would you still have on the show, and how would you treat them? Because we've invited people and I think they're not quite sure, hey, would I be comfortable or not? So lay it on the line here. Who would you have on the show and how would you treat them? That, we've talked about having, some challenges with, but you would still give them that opportunity and mean it.
If we're talking about the usual cast of characters, I would give pretty much, all of them an opportunity to be on the show, long as they understand that we're not going to buy into any bullshit.
It's a discussion, not a lecture.
It's a dialogue, not a monologue.
Right.
So it's got to be a two-way conversation. And here's my thing. I'm willing to have pretty damn near anybody on. And we don't have to agree on things. But if we're going to talk about, if they're going to get into it with me, they have to come to the table with the openness to give me the opportunity to change their mind, because I'm going to give them that same opportunity. And if it's not going to be a two-way street, don't waste my time. If it's just going to be a bitch session, don't waste my time.
Right.
Okay. If you want to have a dialogue. So I've talked about what Modern Arnis was and all this other stuff. So Dan Anderson is at the camp that you were at with Ty, Dean. And he did a 45-minute dialogue and put it up on YouTube. And he talked mostly about Miles Davis, not Modern Arnis. He talked about what Modern Arnis was, and he knows what it was based on an article that Remy did in 1980 something or another. So he knows what Modern Arnis, and you can't change my mind. First of all, who the hell says the guy who wrote the article got it right? I've had plenty of articles written about me, and they were very good articles, but all the facts were wrong. I was on a Team USA that competed in New Jersey and one that competed in Canada. And somehow they said that we were going to the Denver Training Center. Never once mentioned Denver in the conversation, but somehow we were going to this Denver. It was still very good articles. So and the thing here is Remy kept evolving. Modern Arnis was a living, breathing thing. So to say what Modern Arnis is asinine, because if you really know what the art was, it was whatever Remy was doing at that moment. He had a long-term goal, and it may have changed direction. He was constantly having course corrections based on epiphanies he may have had or limitations of his students. And I'm going to say limitations of his students, because the one day I'm at Germany, I had a really cluster manure. Okay, there we go. Today's we had a really cluster of a trip. We had a great trip, but at the last leg, my tickets disappeared. I had to rebuy tickets because back then they didn't do electronic. This was pre-2000. And I'm sitting with Jason Arnold. We're in Frankfurt, Germany. Or Frankfurt? I think it was Frankfurt, Germany. And most of the camp, I actually sat down because actually I was on a European tour there anyways. I was in Denmark and Denmark and Sweden and Germany, and we had a blast doing stuff offsite because my head was just not in it. We got all the tickets worked out and all this other stuff. Well, lo and behold, I'm looking at Remy. I start laughing my ass off, and Jason's like, "What are you laughing about?" I go, "Remy's gotten faster." He goes, "What? Look at him. He's faster than ever." And then I realized about a month later, I talked to Jason, man, I was so wrong. What do you mean? Remy wasn't getting faster. Dude, that was the fastest I've ever seen. No, that was the fastest you ever seen the students go. Remy was in second or third gear. He wasn't in fifth or sixth. And the thing here is Remy travels the world by himself. And I understand why people like Danny and Asano why you have to pay for Inosano to have Joel come with him or someone, because he wants to put the best foot forward and all this other stuff. Personally, that's your choice. I don't agree with that. See, I didn't call it bullshit. You see that? I'm growing. I wouldn't say that's bullshit, because my teacher was able to travel the whole world doing it on his own and didn't need to pay for a damn assistant, especially at a lot of JKD seminars. You've got a lot of top tier guys, and if they can't demonstrate the art within Asano, something's screwed up. But anyways, I didn't say any of that. I didn't say that. I said what I could have said. But the thing here is if Inosano wants to have that guy with him, or maybe Inosano needs help medically because he's in his 80s, he might need some guy to help him travel. And I don't know, but he's been doing this for so long. I don't know. I don't think so. At least maybe not back in the day. Maybe now that's a requirement. But Remy did stuff on his own, and he did an amazing show with people that didn't have anywhere near the talent of what he wanted. And a lot of times I think Remy did a whole bunch of course corrections on the art. This isn't working based on the talent I have. Let's go this way. Let's go this way. Let's go this way. Because a lot of people did the art within your art.
And you could see some of that evolution. If you went to more than just the normal handful of seminars and camps, if you did 10s of them, 20s of them, you could easily see that. I've only done almost 20 camps. He's done 30. But you could see it. It was very, very evident. So that's why I laughed, because Modern Arnis was changing till the very end.
Grandmaster Abone made a point. Arnis in the 70s versus Modern in the 70s versus the 90s. Well, Remy in the Philippines was very karate-esque. Why? He taught in the school systems. He had shitloads of students to teach all at the same time. You had to do it that way. But in the States, smaller groups and people kept training. It wasn't just a gym course that they had to take to get their credit, and then went on and did something else. These are people who are driven to do the art versus it being a school requirement. I mean, think of Taekwondo was in all the schools here, just like it is in Korea. Would we have the passion? Now, we might have better access to quality people, because everyone would be, well, actually, we would have quality. You'd have a lot of athletes, maybe football players, soccer players, basketball, volleyball, all these athletes also doing Taekwondo, or any art. You can put in Arnis. You can put Arnis in there. But would they have the passion, or you just have a better gene pool to choose from? And then you just coerce them to go into the art. I mean, but here, we don't do that. So we have people who actually want to do this. And Remy was able to put more time and say, hey, you're black belts versus kids in school that are no belted. Now go home and do your work. And they already had the work ethic. They just had to modify stuff that's going on. And here we go. I can attest to that evolution by being trained in the 70s in Philippines. Big difference within Modern Arnis as that from then to now. Exactly. And modern would mean that the current is updated. Exactly. There we go.
Well, there's a bunch of history behind that term, but yeah.
Yeah, and so when I did that, I disagreed with Dan. I would be more than happy to have a doubt, but when he was at Brian's camp, it was a monologue. He even referred to Ty he referred to Tim and Ty. Wait a minute, me, Ty, and myself, because I don't want to refer to myself in the third person, but he referred to Ty and myself. He goes, well, Ty and Tim said, let's talk. You can't get me to shut up. I go, no, we didn't ask you to dialogue or monologue. We asked you to discuss, not to dictate. So I would be more than happy to have Dan Anderson on. I'd be more than happy to have Brian Frank on. I'd be more than happy to have Brian Zolinsky on. I've invited several. I've invited Dieter. Come on the show. Let's talk. Let's interact. Maybe, but if you're just gonna sit there to dictate, it's not gonna work, because I'm a bigger dick.
Yeah, I can't see. I can't. Well, I don't know, but I can't see them doing that. I would hope they would take you up on that and at least try to talk about things. I mean, yeah.
I don't. Okay, well, no, listen. I'm going to say what my opinion is. I'm allowed my opinion. People don't always agree. People don't always like. I don't care. I'm allowed my opinion because they're allowed theirs as well. Honestly, I don't think they want to be on the show because they know they're not right. Okay, I know what the article was because Remy wrote the article. Remy's art kept evolving. How could you say that article in 1980 something or another froze it in time? You're making it a traditional art. It's not a traditional art. It's a modern, growing art.
Yeah.
Living art.
Living art.
What evolves? Yeah. Wow.
I do control the mute button.
That's right. Or even the video, right, when he kicks us off.
Timmy, and Timothy. Timothy, and Timothy.
Me, myself, and I. There you go.
Okay, yep, you're right. So
did anybody else have any other questions for Datu here? Since he's bearing it all, he shared some personal stuff. He shared some of his, challenges growing up. He shared kind of the philosophy of the region and the people he would hang around with, which is why what you get. But hey, you want to call him on anything? Now's the time to ask for it, because this is about that. So, and Dean, did you asked one or two questions too? I mean, if you guys got any other questions, including you, Dean, anything you want to call Datu on, let's set him up. So when he comes back, he goes, "What?"
So you won't have any preparation.
That's right, exactly. We already hit him with some things we didn't talk about before because I had some ideas.
So, listen, any other questions? Because I was going to make a statement.
Uh-oh.
So far, I think people have been happy. I mean, you've been pretty open and honest, I think, and nothing actually goes against how you sort of portrayed yourself on the show anyway. So it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, in my opinion.
So, listen, I've made a lot of mistakes. I've done bonehead mistakes. I've learned from all of them. I'm not happy with some of the mistakes I've met. I hope that some of the things I've done in the past haven't hurt people. I wouldn't change a thing, and this is the reason why. Even with the abusive stepfather, it helped me make me who I am today. I wouldn't change a thing because I'm happy with who I became. Once again, I'm not saying I'm happy I hurt people, if that's what I did. If I offended people, not my intent. But the life lessons that I learned are what made me who I am today, and I wouldn't risk changing that because I am happy who I've grown and become. Let me see here. And Bill, okay, cool. Thank you. And by the way, I got those. I did respond. You said thank you. Bill and I both do Kuntao, and he sent me some articles which are cool. So and we got to get you on the show, Bill. Boom. What is your goal? 1 year, 5 years before he retires? Who's the pizza is not the best. Let me see. Let's just go like this. Here we go. Yeah. All I can say is that I found myself growing from knowing both of you. Wait a minute. Which? There's three of us here. Obviously. Wait a minute. Let me fix that. Okay. Yes, we know very well. Thank you. And Datu, you telling it the way it is. Okay. Thank you, sir. Night, gentlemen. And I've made a lot of mistakes, but mostly dated them.
Nice.
I kind of resemble that too. So, and just because we talked about it here, boom.
There you go.
Caribbean Martial Art Festival is October 20th and 21st in Bridgetown, Barbados. There's more than just 2 days of training. We're going to go out and do stuff. Plus, my crew that goes, we're going to do some training and the beach in the mornings or in the afternoon. So if anyone wants to come with, Carl, who chimed in and asked what his school was, which I don't know why he should have known better. So Carl Outram is he and I co-host this.
Yep.
So there's the Bayesian flag. So if people are interested, and if anyone wants to come down and we'll talk about it.
So what are Caribbean martial arts?
Stick licking. No, literally. It is. So it's like getting a licking with a stick. They actually call it stick licking. It's a long stick system.
And cutlasses.
My next trip to the Philippines, we'll send you some training manuals. Okay, that'd be very awesome. Actually, I think I already read that.
Nice.
And LOL. No offense, to Guru Dean. I just threw it out there.
None taken.
You need a passport. Yes, you do. It's not Barbados is its own country. It used to be part of the British Empire, and now it's keep being yourself. Thank you, Danny. Coach Danny, that is.
Coach Danny. Coach Danny.
So we're gonna wrap things up. Oh, let's see. I'll be training with my Speedo. Dean, I want to touch base with you afterwards, real quick. So if you don't mind.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. This is a nice visit.
Oh my gosh, humbled and honored. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'm going to take you off. We're going to just say a couple things. We don't have we'll talk about this. Okay, we don't really have. We had a tentative show, Kids in the Martial Arts, and I was going to have Miss Esford, which is the youngest Modern Arnis black belt.
Nice.
I haven't seen her family members. She's been off the grid a little bit, do some stuff. Okay. Great show as usual. Thank you, sir. Our baby Dill.
If I had more time, I'd pick some old Remy footage that we could also do. Remember, we talked about doing that, but I don't have time.
Maybe that if we have, you know what? We'll see what we can do. We can figure something out. Did you want to do Columbus Day, or do we want to take off?
Which day is Columbus Day?
That's the 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
8th.
The week after I can't because I'll be in Florida. I'll be on.
Well, if you're taking the week after off, we probably should do it.
Right,
I don't care. Yeah.
So we will. Let me see. I'm just looking at this. So next week we don't have an idea what the show is yet. It'll be a show about nothing.
Seinfeld show.
It'll be a Seinfeld show, and then the 10th. Oh, the 10th. We'll do another show. Then we'll be off for probably 2 weeks.
Okay.
Or at least 1 week. So, hey, thank you for tuning in. Listen, once again, like I said, everybody, I'm happy who I am. I hope I didn't hurt anybody on the way, and I'm more than happy to sit down and talk if we need to air things out. If people, I gotta believe that we could talk things out and work it out. If personally, I think there's a lot of miscommunication on both sides.
Yeah. Well, one thing, if people get one-on-one and they're really truly committed to try to find a way, they can actually find a way. I've never seen it not happen if
it's genuine.
Yep.
Listen,
one-on-one. It's harder in a group, but one-on-one, yes.
You've been around me enough that knows that I've said on a lot of these things, it drives me crazy. It breaks my heart that we can't get along. Yep. Because I do care about the art, and we don't have to like each other. We could coexist peacefully. We could do events together, and all these events that I've been at, you've known the people I've been at, and I don't like some of these people, and we still had blasts.
Yep.
I don't see what the problem is, but
yep.
All right. Well, listen, we'll sign off, and I want to talk to Dean, you afterwards, and then we'll go there. So, as always, this is Datu Tim.
PG Ty.
Saying thanks for tuning in, everybody. Stay safe and stay sane.